Well, Jamie, I don't think you need any introduction. Most people that watch this program have seen you on it previously and know your history in the state. Tell us a little bit about the Michigan Democratic Party's Cannabis Caucus.
So this caucus was formed actually during the previous election, and I was there, and as was Rick, and Rick joined at that time, but I did not. And it was a really good idea, and it got started, and maybe a few meetings took place, but it really didn't take off and wasn't driven at that time. And just a little while ago, Mike McCurdy, the chair, and Zara Abbas, the vice chair, revived this group and reformed a new board and brought back as many people formerly who wanted to be involved and got some new people on. And it has now been involved in some really good positive functions, for the cannabis industry and for the just the cannabis movement at large. There's been a little gap in time before it was around and other groups were around to kind of keep an eye on the implementation of the law and other things. But now it's here and it's got a lot to do and it's already begun being very productive.
Now, we'll talk about the slate of candidates that have been endorsed for election in just a moment. But before we do that, talk about the Cannabis Caucus's most recent success, which would be the working with the Redemption Foundation and Last Prisoner Project on a very special group here in Michigan.
Yeah, so Redemption recently was just formed too and took up many causes as far as focusing on those who have been disadvantaged by the war on drugs, war on cannabis. And we cross paths on this issue of trying to get people out of jail who have made their way in there unjustly based on cannabis issues. In this case, we started with Michael Thompson, who's also recognized by a national organization, Last Prisoner Project, to get him out. And there have been some meetings pushed up and some really good discussions with the governor on clemency and these things, but it's a process. He does have a meeting coming up in which some things will get discussed. But one of the considerations has been from the parole board that he might not be able to sustain himself or support himself when he gets out. And that might be the case for others too. The foundation, the Redemption Foundation, the Michigan Cannabis Caucus, and others have begun to raise money now to help with those situations. And within just a few days, $30,000 was raised. And thereafter, another 10 very quickly. And that is an ongoing project, and that will be used for those purposes. So there are some things we've come out of the gates with and have been very productive.
Now, that's wonderful. Let's go back to the subject at hand here, though, the Cannabis Caucus. Clearly, we've, as a Cannabis Caucus of the Michigan Democratic Party, we endorsed Joe Biden as the Democratic candidate for President of the United States. There is really only one Michigan Senate race that's open this year, which would be Gary Peters versus John James. We endorsed Gary Peters. If you move further on down the list, there are a lot of House representatives listed there too. But one of the most important and exciting aspects of the endorsement slate comes in the field of county level prosecutors and county level sheriff candidates too. Please talk a little bit about some of those folks and what they could potentially do in their locals.
Yeah, so this is very exciting, and the Cannabis Caucus did engage with helping to support these people and interview them earlier this year. Last election cycle, to take over for the governor when she became governor, she was prosecutor of Ingham County, Governor Whitmer, and a progressive person came on board named Carol Seaman, who immediately brought more sensible approach to the cannabis issue. The county there, Ingham County, has been generally very good for a while, so it wasn't totally new, but it was really good to have her in place. This session, she's running again, and we are supporting her, but other progressive county prosecutors are coming online too, like Ellie Savitt and Karen from Washtenaw County and Karen McDonald from Oakland County. So the power of having at least three counties working with a different approach that's more sensible, that's more just, will help set a great example. We almost got somebody in Wayne County, Victoria Burton Harris, and she's going to stay on and remain very influential with these existing progressive candidates. And I think we're going to see some real change in those areas. And in Oakland County, there is a person running against Sheriff Bouchard, longtime sheriff who's been against cannabis and has worked with the previous prosecutors there to be easily one of the worst counties in the state on the issue from our perspective. And Vincent Gregory, he's a former state rep, former senator, former deputy of Wayne County for many years. He's very well qualified, and he has a chance. If there's really good turnout, as it appears there is, he has a chance of beating Sheriff Bouchard, the longtime incumbent. his victory in conjunction with Karen McDonald's victory in that county would be a huge evolution, a step forward on this issue. There's many people who could possibly be involved in flipping seats, longtime seats held by those not necessarily as favorable on this issue as they should be, or as they could be, are in position to take those seats over. So this election is very important. We could really improve conditions in many different areas right after Tuesday. Is that the second? Sure.
It's the 3rd.
Right after November 3rd. Yep.
Yeah, don't vote on the 4th though.
And that is true. And even the postmark thing isn't a thing right now.
Oh yeah, that's an important thing we should probably point out. You're hearing it from everybody, include Jocelyn Benson, our Secretary of State. If you do have an absentee ballot right now, do not mail the absentee ballot. Drop it off at your city clerk's office or at one of those ballot box mailboxes that if you go to michigan.gov SOS or something like that, we'll get you the proper link here. But I mean, they're all over the place. Make sure it's not a mailbox you're dropping it in, but the ballot box drop box.
There's lots of opportunity for people to vote early here in Michigan if they go directly down to their city hall or their township center in order to talk directly to the clerk. You can cast your vote early. Mike Brendan and I were speaking earlier today off camera about the possibility of negative weather impacting people's ability to attend the elections here in November. In Michigan in November, it's kind of unpredictable and it's been very chilly. If that suppresses the attendance, then we really don't get a full feel for how America feels about this election. So get an opportunity, vote early. Jamie, when we talk about progressive prosecutors, we don't talk about two prosecutors who have been pretty good on the cannabis issue so far. That'd be David Layton in Genesee County, and then our friend just down south on I-75 in Wayne County. You know, we've got a very good prosecutor in Wayne County who's done some great things to de-emphasize cannabis crimes as far as that goes. We're actually moving on a prosecutor level towards a better place in Michigan. And these three prosecutors endorsed by the Democratic Cannabis Caucus could really help us move that direction, couldn't they?
They could. I think David Layton might be a little notch up from our Wayne County experience right now. You have kind of an old school person in there. Not that it's horrible or as bad as it gets, but a lot of room for improvement. And maybe the three progressives can really be an influence on some of these others who are okay, but could really stand to be maybe a little bit more. And one of the things they're going to do, hopefully, and it's a matter of resources, is to review some old cases in which some egregious things may have taken place, and to look and see what's in the pipeline when they get in there, and possibly start right away with setting the tone for not necessarily having cases brought to them that have to do with adults and some small amounts of cannabis.
And it seems like there's great enthusiasm this year. I've been watching carefully. I'm an old poli-sci major from the University of Michigan, so I'm kind of a political junkie. So I've been watching carefully. An enormous amount of people have already pre-voted in Michigan by taking that absentee ballot and mailing it previously. But again, don't do that this week, or taking it to the clerk's office or to one of the ballot box drop boxes. And you can even go to the clerk's office, ask for a ballot as today, and fill it out right there and hand it back to the clerk. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it, but it seems like a lot of people are doing that early. You think that's an encouraging sign for Democrats?
I think it's an encouraging sign for America. I think giving our people more opportunity to vote, creating a greater number of ways that they can actually cast a ballot, it's important. I'd like to see America move to a system where all college students who are not in their state of residence actually automatically get an absentee ballot sent to them directly so that they have an opportunity to participate. You certainly cannot expect someone to fly from a California college back to Michigan on a Tuesday just to vote and then fly back to attend classes later that day. It's not practical. There are better ways we can do it, and I think we're moving towards that. Jamie, you think that's true, don't you?
I do. I think there's more involvement at large. There's a lot of reaction to what's gone on since 2016. Most of the people are taking advantage of the new law that passed in 2018 that allows for this type of voting. The reports are that they are primarily or more Democrats than others taking advantage of this way of voting. As long as everything gets counted properly and the polls are at least relatively correct, we should be seeing a lot of victories on the Democratic side. But we all know what could possibly happen, even though it looks like it's going to go in a certain way. So won't make that official until it is official. I do agree it looks good, though.
We've endorsed from the Michigan Democratic Party's Cannabis Caucus, endorsed people at all different contest levels. But one of the happiest things that we did, I think, in my opinion, was endorsed Richard Clement for the Detroit Public Schools Board. Richard, you'll remember Richard from all of our past adventures over the last 12 years as the Free the Weed guy. Really been long time involved in Detroit politics, was on George Cushenberry's staff when he was a city council person. That would be a great addition. Typically, the caucus doesn't get involved in those type of local elections, but for a special person like that, you got to make that endorsement, right?
Absolutely. He's also the representative of the 14th district for the Cannabis Caucus. Mm-hmm. And years ago, he led the charge to try to recall Bill Schuette. And it's an impossible task, just how it is set up. It's without millions and millions of dollars and an army of people. It can't be done, really. But he did lead that and got a lot of press for it, and put Schuette through a little bit of a ringer in the press and stuff over it. So he's a great guy, and I'm really happy that he's running for this office, and we do support him.
We have on our endorsement list, which you can find either on our Facebook page or on Mike's website itself, you can find lists of House representatives here in Michigan that are up for election that could potentially get your vote. Naturally, the national elections with the Gary Peters election and the presidential election too. But more importantly are some of those local elections, those places where oftentimes we say the most politics happens, which is at the local level. So I hope that our viewers will be able to take a look at that and use that guide to help decide who might be their best choice for a particular office.